The summer I turned 19, I took a job on a farm, far from anything familiar. Miles from the nearest town, no cell signal, and a silence so heavy it felt like its own language. I needed distance, a place to think, or maybe forget. I didn't expect to find him there. Noah, the farmer's son. He was already in the barn when I arrived, stacking bales of hay with a rhythm that looked more like punishment than purpose. His clothes were clean but worn, his movements careful, like someone who was always being watched. When his father introduced us, Noah barely met my eyes. Just a nod, a quick glance, then back to work. They told me Noah had been homeschooled, raised by strict Christian parents who didn't believe in the internet, or television, or outside ideas. "The world's full of poison," his mother said. "We keep ours pure." I nodded politely, but her words hung heavy in the air between us. At first, working beside Noah was like working beside a ghost. He barely spoke. He moved around me like I wasn't there. But over the next few days, something started to shift. A pause in his movements when I talked, a flicker of something in his eyes when I laughed. He had the kind of quiet curiosity that burned low and constant, like an ember waiting for oxygen. We spent hours in silence, feeding animals, fixing fences, cleaning stalls. And then one afternoon, I found him in the loft of the barn, crouched behind a stack of hay. He didn't hear me approach. I saw what he was drawing, two boys sitting close, knees touching, heads bowed. The lines were soft, uncertain, like he hadn't meant to finish it. When he noticed me, his face went pale. He shoved the notebook into his jacket. "You draw?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "No," he said quickly, too quickly. "It's nothing." But it wasn't nothing. That moment lingered between us like a held breath. After that, he spoke more, just a little. Asked where I was from, what I studied. If cities really looked like they did in movies, each question felt like a door cracking open. Still, there was a tension in him, always. Like he was afraid of being seen too clearly, of being known. One night, as we fed the horses, he looked at me differently. His gaze held a question he couldn't ask out loud. I didn't answer it. Not yet. But I knew, even then, that everything between us was balanced on the edge of something dangerous, and that sooner or later, it would tip. The storm came just after sunset, sudden and loud, as if the sky had been holding its breath too long. Thunder cracked over the hills, and rain lashed the tin roof in sheets. The family had left hours earlier for a church revival in the next county. I was meant to stay behind and keep an eye on the animals. Noah stayed too. He said he had chores to finish, but I suspected he didn't want to sit in another folding chair, singing hymns about sins he didn't fully understand. The house felt strange without them, quieter, as if it had exhaled. Noah sat across from me at the kitchen table, eyes flicking toward the windows, watching the storm. The electricity blinked out twice before the lights surrendered completely, leaving us in candlelight. He looked different like that, softer somehow. Shadows brushed his cheekbones, and the gold of the flame caught in his eyes. "You ever think about leaving?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. "Sometimes. But I wouldn't even know where to go. There's a whole world out there, you know." He smiled, faint and unsure. "Yeah, I've read about it. Never seen it, though." We sat in silence, the only sound the rain and the occasional creak of the old house. Then he said quietly, "I've never kissed anyone before." The words settled between us, gentle but heavy. He wasn't asking, just confessing. I looked at him, really looked. He was trying to be brave. His shoulders were tense, but his gaze didn't waver. I didn't move closer. I didn't say anything clever. I just let the moment stretch, let him keep control of it. Eventually, he stood and said we should check the barn. The animals might be spooked. The storm had softened by the time we reached it. The air smelled of damp earth and straw. Lightning flashed distantly, turning the world silver for a second at a time. Inside, the horses shuffled in their stalls, restless but unharmed. We calmed them together, side by side in the warm dark. When we turned to leave, he didn't walk toward the door. He stayed still, just watching me. Then, slowly, he stepped closer, one hesitant breath at a time. He kissed me. It was a small, trembling thing, not practiced, not certain, just real. His hands didn't know where to go. His breath hitched. When he pulled back, his eyes searched mine, looking for guilt or shame, or maybe even salvation. All I could whisper was, "It's okay." But even then, I felt it, the line we'd just crossed. Outside, the storm had passed, but the air still hummed with electricity. Something had shifted, and there would be no going back. Morning came too soon. The sun bled slowly across the fields, and the world returned to its usual stillness. But everything felt altered, hollowed out, fragile. I found Noah sitting on the porch steps, arms wrapped around his knees, face drawn and distant. He didn't look up when I joined him. His shirt clung to him, damp with sweat or maybe the remnants of last night's storm. "I prayed," he said finally, voice rough, "all night." I waited, unsure what to say. I asked God to forgive me, to help me forget. The words hit like a cold slap, not because they were cruel, but because he sounded like he believed them, like what we shared needed erasing. "It wasn't wrong," I said quietly. He turned to me then, eyes wide with fear. "You don't know what this place does to people like me." I tried to touch his hand, but he pulled away. "Please," he whispered, not angry, just desperate. "Don't make this harder." The day dragged. At breakfast, Noah was silent. His father eyed him with suspicion, asking if he was feeling ill. His mother offered him tea and touched his forehead. I watched him retreat into himself, layer by layer, sealing every crack. The closeness we'd found now felt like something buried deep underground. I kept working through the afternoon, hoping for some sliver of connection. A glance, a word, anything. But he barely acknowledged me. It was like he had vanished inside his skin. That evening I heard raised voices from the house, muffled but sharp. I stepped closer. His father's voice cut through. "You think I don't notice? The way he looks at you? The shame he brings into this home?" Then silence. A long, breathless silence. I backed away, heart thudding. I didn't know how much. They knew, or how they found out. But it was clear, something had snapped. I waited in the barn until after dark, hoping Noah would come. The same place where we had touched, whispered, kissed. But hours passed and he never appeared. The animals slept. The wind creaked through the beams, and the weight of the day sank into my bones. I thought of his drawing, the two boys, the soft edges, the timid closeness. I wondered if he'd burned it, if he thought that might save him. The stillness, it hit me. He was erasing me, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. The kind so deep it swallows everything else. I had come here looking for quiet, for escape. But I'd stepped into someone else's war. Somewhere between the silence and the storm, we had both crossed lines we couldn't uncross. And now, the cost was coming due. I left before sunrise the next day. I packed quietly, stuffing clothes into my backpack without folding them, each zip louder than the last in the sleeping house. No note, no goodbye, just silence. I didn't want to face them. Didn't want to see Noah looking at me like I was temptation dressed in sin. The truck's tires cracked along the gravel road as I drove off. The farmhouse shrank in the rearview mirror, swallowed by morning mist. I kept my eyes forward, trying not to feel anything, but the ache stayed rooted in my chest like something unfinished. I thought he might chase after me. that he'd run down the road barefoot, face flushed with apology, begging me to stay. But no one came. Just empty fields and miles of fence line. Weeks passed. I returned to the city, back to noise and movement and distraction. But I carried Noah with me, in the quiet moments, in the dreams that came uninvited. I'd see his sketch again, feel the warmth of his breath in the barn, hear the hesitation in his voice when he said my name. I never reached out, and he didn't either. Then, months later, I received a package. No return address, just my name, in careful handwriting. Inside, a single sheet of paper folded 3 times. A drawing, 2 boys again, but different this time, more confident. One leaning into the other, their fingers laced. Behind them, a field of open sky. No words, no note. But I knew. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a promise. It was proof. Proof that what happened mattered. That it changed something in him, even if he couldn't say it out loud. Sometimes love is loud, full of declarations and bright lights. And sometimes it's whispered in the dark, held in trembling hands, hidden in barns and behind silence. What we had, brief, bruised, beautiful, was the kind that never fits into neat boxes or simple endings. I'll never know what became of him, whether he left that farm or stayed and made peace with his quiet rebellion. But I hope he found gentleness. I hope he found breath. And I hope, when he looks at that drawing years from now, he remembers the storm, the candlelight, the kiss that started it all. Because I do. Every time.